Hello my friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop. Welcome to Shop Talk here in the man cave. There's been a lot of comments and things about the quality of the video. Well, we're using a different computer up here, and I checked everything I could check this morning and the quality looks to be right, so it just kind of is what it is right now. You just have to bear with it. I wish I could make it better, but I don't know how to do that right now. We do have about a 3-minute video I'm going to show you this morning of the progress that I'm making on the water wheel wall there. It's the retaining wall where I'm going to be putting the water wheel house and all that. So might as well just go ahead and get into that right now and just let you see that video. It's about 3 minutes long. It starts out with me backfilling some of the wall with some gravel, and if you kind of notice you know, the grass behind me, how high it is there to my head, and then notice how high the wall is when we conclude the video, because I did all that this morning, and every bit of this was shot this morning. So here we go. Typically it's not that much work to backfill that, but the bucket dumped more than I was expecting. It kind of came out in a big clump rather than sprinkled out like it usually does, so that's why it was so much more work. All right, you can see I'm up so many courses with the block, and this is the first opportunity I feel like I've had to lay this netting in here. And what I'm going to do is lay another course of block on top of this netting, and then the netting goes up there in the grass, and then after I get another course of block on here, I'm going to backfill with river gravel, and that should work. And then we'll coat everything over with regular dirt later. Well, here's the status of the wall as of today. This is Friday, and you can see it's a pretty tall wall now. It's up past my shoulders, so it's a hair over 5 feet tall, and I've got it backfilled with gravel. My idea is to bring it up another block and then go out with level with dirt to the road. That way she'll have an easy time cutting the grass here. So right there, this mesh is under this layer of block right here. So there's 2 layers of block sitting on that mesh right now, and then it's backfilled with that gravel. And when the gravel goes down between the block and intermingles with that mesh, then that locks it in really tight, and it really does a good job. I'm going to call that good enough for today. The bugs and the temperatures are just killing me. I don't mind admitting that when I got that last block laid right there, I was out of breath. I'm seriously telling you, it was a lot of work. So I laid at least 3 courses of block today. I think I had 4 almost done. I don't think the 4th course was completely finished, so I finished, well, I actually had to finish the bottom course, even now that I think about it, to the end of the wall. So I finished the end of the wall, the length of it, then I brought it all up to about 4 courses high roughly. So I did all that, and then I laid 3 more courses on top of that, including the 2 courses with the fiber. So I did all of that this morning. Started at about 6 o'clock, and about 9 o'clock I was done, and did all that backfilling in addition. So it was quite a job, and horseflies weren't quite as bad today. I got maybe a half dozen bites today, maybe 4 or 5, I don't know, something like that. Didn't kill any of them today, just was busy. They weren't quite as bad today. Yesterday they were absolutely voracious. They were pretty bad today, but I think most people would have been real upset with 4 or 5 bites this morning. Somebody commented that I must be really tough if I can stand a dozen bites, because he said he had 1 bite and it was worse than a bee sting. Well, I don't think they're worse than a bee sting. I think they're pretty bad. Don't get me wrong, they're not fun, but I don't think they're nearly as bad as a bee sting or a wasp sting. They hurt though. I mean, they hurt pretty good. You know it when they're biting, and you just instantly got to be swatting at them, because boy, they hurt. So, and it's, you know, it's annoying enough. I mean, the temperatures and the humidity and the heat, and then to throw the horseflies in on top of it just puts the icing on the cake, I'm telling you. I think we're going to do this different backwards today. Typically I go to the comments from the day before's video, but I think I'm just going to start with the comments in today's video first, and then we'll go to those comments, and then we'll pick up if there's any extras down here. Looks like before we went live, Michael Boyle says, does the heat generated from heating the bridge for removal weaken the glue holding the bridge plate? Should the bridge plate be clamped while it is cooling? Well, Michael, I haven't had any particular problem with that, no. You're barely, you know, when you're getting that heat in there, as you're heating that bridge, wood is not a very good conductor, and you're doing really good just to heat it hot enough to get the glue right there, and then you still have to go through the top and get to the other. So no, it really doesn't affect the glue on the inside on the bridge plate. I mean, if you left it on there for, you know, a couple hours, it might, but just on the amount of time that you're doing it to get the bridge off, it generally doesn't have any problem like that. I've never seen a problem like that. So anyway, good question, but no, I don't think you're going to have any issues with that. James Dahl, have you thought about the possibility of having deer hunters use your retreat and you setting them up with good spots on your property? Yeah, James, I did actually lease it out to some deer hunters for a couple of years, but the problem with that is when you do that, you kind of have to not use it yourself, and I prefer just to use my own property myself and to allow my friends to come. And when you're leasing it out to people, they're paying for the privilege of hunting it, and they don't really want anybody else there. So I just, you know, I don't know. I mean, it's always an option, but right now I'm not doing that anymore. And you never know who you're getting in there either. So you got to be a little leery about it, because there's just some people that aren't real careful. Dogfather61, hello from the UK. How is the rechargeable head torch working out? Does the battery last for a decent time, and how long does it take to charge? Well, the truth of that is I haven't really had a particular case to use it. I've been working on this wall, and I haven't been crawling under equipment or anything and using it. I think Sue used it in the cave, and I didn't ask her if it lasted a long time or anything, so I really don't have a report on that headlamp yet. Sorry about that, but I think it's going to be fine. I really do. It seems like it's the kind of outfit that's going to just kind of work no fail. I do have a product review, though, I'm going to get to here in just a minute. I should have done that first, probably, before I got into these questions and answers. I'm going to give you a product review on this GoPro. That's about all I'll say right now. Spike Moto says, when is the best time of year to visit the retreat to avoid the horseflies and such? Well, I don't know. Probably in the fall, late fall, probably something like October time frame, something like that. I don't recall having a lot of horseflies around at that time. The horseflies weren't bad up through July, but the purple martins left at the end of July, at the beginning of August. And that's a question that I saw in today's question somewhere. I've already, and I might as well just answer it since we're talking about that. They said, where do the purple martins go so early in the year? Why do they leave so early? Well, they migrate all the way down to the Amazon basin in South America. So they go all the way down there, and I guess it's just a long flight, and they just start early, you know. And anyway. So that's all I know about it. I don't really know the full story on the purple martins, but I do know they go down there. But anyway, we really didn't have any horseflies up until the time they left. After they left, the horseflies just, you know, are just terrible now. Right now, they're just horrible. Anyway, moving on. Let me see. That was the last question before we actually went live this morning. So I think I'll put the questions on hold for a moment and do my product review on this GoPro Hero 11. Let me first start by saying this is not my first GoPro. I had a GoPro Hero 3. It's probably been 7-8 years ago, maybe longer than that. And in fact, it was one of the first cameras I had for YouTube when I first started doing YouTube. I wasn't impressed with the Hero 3. I mean, it was okay. It was just kind of an okay camera. The reason I didn't like it was because you didn't have any way of seeing what you're filming. In other words, there was no screen on the back like this one has a screen. This screen on the front also shows you what you're filming. So they've made a big improvement on that. So the Hero 3, I finally just kind of put it on the shelf and just didn't use it anymore. I just didn't really like it that much. Well, fast forward now about 10 years, and they've got the Hero 11. So I thought, well, I'll buy this now that it's got the screen on it and everything. I'm sure the same quality on the rest of it, you know, and they've now improved it with the screen, right? Well, let me just say this the nicest way I can say it, and I mean this with all sincerity. And if I had a way to contact the guy that designed this and or the people in charge of this, I'd call them and tell them this exact same thing to their face. And that is that this thing absolutely, in my opinion, sucks canal water on its very, very, very best day. On its very best day, it sucks canal water. It's the biggest piece of crap I've ever bought in my life in terms of cameras. There you go. That's the review. It's a piece of junk. I would not recommend it to anybody. And you might say, well, why? Okay, well, I'll tell you if you really want to know why. The first thing is, these are the better batteries. I bought their best batteries, the ones that are supposed to be the long-lasting batteries. I bought 2 of them. And if you can get 30 minutes out of any one of their batteries, you're doing really good. It's a piece of junk, and it turns off constantly. Like one time it turns off, it says, the GoPro got hot, so it turned off. The GoPro battery went dead, so it turned off. Well, I'm out there working my butt off in that hot temperature, and I didn't turn off. I just kept working, you know. This thing is junk, piece of junk. And then you might say, well, just because the battery goes bad, that doesn't mean it's junk. Well, yeah, it does mean it's junk. First of all, like that other camera, that DJI camera, the one that has the motion, you know, the steady cam, that battery will last 3 times longer than this. And it's just a rechargeable camera. You can't, well, I don't know of a battery separate. It's just a rechargeable. But anyway, the point is that battery lasts way longer than their premium battery for this. This is junk. And then you might say, well, that's not the reason to call it junk. Well, okay, well, and then I'll give you a couple more reasons. The next one is the stupid thing they've changed here. Why didn't they just leave it alone? You know, like to get this down, it's really hard. You got to just pull like crazy to get it down and to open that up. And your stuff's, your charging port's inside here, your battery's inside here. So that's just a real pain in the neck too, the way that locks up. Then you might say, well, that's not, that's still not a reason. Well, this on-off button, you almost have to be Hercules to push the stupid thing. It's really hard to push, and when you're turning it off, you got to hold it forever before it turns off. Piece of junk. When your hands are, when you're sweating out there working like crazy, got gloves on, it's barely operable. This screen, even considering the fact that the battery goes dead almost instantly, the screens turn off within 10 seconds. I mean, like, they don't stay on. So it's not the screens running the batteries down. And that's annoying too, because the screens are always off. The DJI camera, the screen stays on the whole time, and the battery lasts 3 times longer than this. I'm telling you, GoPro, you should hang your head in shame. Absolutely in shame. You should just quit making cameras and go into some other line of work. Go bankrupt, whatever. But do not buy this camera. It's a piece of junk. Okay, I'm done. Moving on. Questions, answers. Ask me how I really feel about it. You'd have to censor the whole video. It's a piece of junk. Piece of junk. Wouldn't buy another one for 15 cents if I had the opportunity. There you go. Let's see. Moving on. John Keeley says, "Hi Jerry from Folsom, California. Can you explain how you use laser level for the wall?" Yeah, I can explain that kind of. It's pretty simple, really. You set your the laser level is a tripod deal. You set it up on a tripod. Tripods are always used on anything for level because tripods don't rock. 3 legs never rock. That's just a rule of tripods. So that's why camera tripod, uses a tripod. That's why everything that needs to be steady uses 3 legs. So you set your laser on this tripod first, and the laser has to be fairly level. I mean, it can self-level a little bit, but you want to try to make sure that the top of the tripod is pretty level. And there's a bubble level on there that you can use to try to get it that way. So you get it relatively level, then you put your laser on top, and the laser is a box about this big, and it has a spinning laser on the top, and this laser, I guess it shoots out a beam. You can't see it, at least not out in the daylight. You can't see it, and it's spinning really, really fast. I mean, it's spinning really, really fast. So that laser beam is going out in all directions level, because this thing self-levels, so it's perfectly level. Now you have a reader out on a pole. It's a yardstick type pole. And when I say yardstick, it's just a stationary pole that's about 8 feet long, and it's got inches on it all the way up and down. And I'm sure you can get them in metric also. But mine, of course, reads in inches, and it goes about 8 feet tall. So then you move the sensor up and down on the stick. And then you lock it in. When you get a solid beep, like the laser, this sensor will go beep when it gets perfect, and it'll go beep beep, like that if you're too high, or beep beep if you're too low, and the arrow points to move it down, like it'll be pointing down, and that means you need to move it down a little bit, or arrow will be pointing up and you need to move it up a little bit until you hear that beep, like that. The long clear tone is you're perfectly level. So you can do that, and then by reading that and learning how to read it, you can, what I typically do is I try to find my high point. In other words, where the foundation is the highest, I take that reading first, and I just leave it locked in that spot. And then I go over to a place where it's lower, and I go down like this. And then I go to where I can hear it read, and it goes beep like that. Well, then I look below it and see that I've got like 6 inches to go or whatever to fill that spot. And you can do it other ways. You can read it. You can do it the other way. You can read your low spot and then come back to your high spot. But I always find it's easier for me to start at my high spot and then go out to my low spots. and then you just fill in that area until the bottom of your stick is reading perfect. So it's a really easy thing to use, and it's the laser level. It can be used by one person, where like the sight levels that you look through, somebody has to hold the stick out there. And I used to have one of those also. I gave that to my son a long time ago. Because the laser level it's a one-man operation. One person can use it, and it really is a wonderful thing. Anyway, that's about it. I guess that tells you everything you need to know about a laser level. Scott Roberts, good morning from Salem, Oregon. Thought I would tune in to watch someone else working hard for a change. Still looking for him. Well, Scott, if you'd have been here this morning, you'd have seen somebody working really hard. I mean, I was busting my tail. I tried to get it completely finished. And really where the wall stops now, I'm going to put one more course of block on top of it. Of course, now I'll be reaching up above my head to put that next block on. I guess I could do it from up above, but it's awkward because there's a slope there, so it's a little awkward. Then you're actually going down below your feet if I was to stand up above it. So I'll probably have to do it from below and lift them up above my head. And then after I get that next course of block on there, then I'm going to put the capstone. The capstone's only about this thick, and I'll put a capstone to cover up all the holes. And then, of course, it'll all be backfilled before I put the capstone on there, too. So anyway, I'm getting close to done. I think, realistically, I would say one more morning for sure, and probably two, because one more morning I might get that much finished, but I don't know if I could cut all the end blocks. Like over there on where the water's falling, coming in, I want that wall to come up straight. Well, right now it's stepped up. And, you have to cut half blocks to get the wall to come out straight. And so I have to cut a lot of blocks, and I haven't cut any yet to straighten that in. So I've still got quite a bit of work to do. The devil's always in the detail. And anyway, that's the name of that tune. Let's see, the next one that's got some question marks, Paul Lanier says, you do excellent work on most any job that runs in front of you. Thank you for all the work effort that you and your family makes. Well, you're welcome, Paul. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate that. We try hard, Again, I know it sounds like I'm bragging because I keep talking about these different skills and different things that I do and have done. But I just grew up that way. I mean, I've been doing all this kind of stuff my whole life. I mean, this is not like it's almost never my first rodeo on these things. Like melting that aluminum, that was my first rodeo. And, I'm learning on that as I go. But, you got to realize, too, that even on something that's my first rodeo, I typically have done stuff that's very similar my whole life, and so it's even on my first rodeo, I usually have a leg up because I've done stuff that's very similar to whatever it is I'm doing. And that's the way it was with that melting stuff. And I'll be darned, I'm just running my cursor up and down here. I was just moving the cursor up and down, and one of those weird, I was telling you how the words get all jambled. Some words got jambled over Bill Mumbo's comment. I was just about ready to read his comment. Let me see if it'll go away if I scroll up and come back down. What a piece of junk. It didn't. It didn't go away. I'm trying to read it, Bill. It's, you fed them enough yesterday, or maybe your alien blood did for them. Oh, he's talking about the horseflies that I fed them enough yesterday. Yeah, they're a pain, man. I mean, they really do hurt. And they're big. I don't know if you all have, some of you may have never even seen a horsefly, but a horsefly is about a full inch long, and with their wings kind of back, I would say they're 3/4 of an inch wide. I mean, they're big. They look just like a housefly, except they're that big. And when they bite, yeah, you know all about it, because they absolutely hurt. Clyde Lewis, I Hi, Jerry. I'm thinking about making retaining wall myself. Is rebar necessary to align the stones? If they heavy enough, the horseflies are biting here too. Okay, well, we're going to get to this later because I know Eddie had a comment about the wall itself. And if you watch yesterday's vlog, I thought I explained it pretty well, but Eddie's comment yesterday and I think today also indicate that maybe I didn't. I don't know, but you know, because Eddie's talking about that the wall needs to be stepped back. Well, it is stepped back, and I said that very clearly in yesterday's video. I said that there's a lip on the back of each block, and that lip hangs down, and you slide it forward until that lip hits the block below. That leaves about a ½ inch gap. You know, each course is about a ½ inch further back because of that lip. That lip's about a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch thick, and so the next course that you lay on top, you slide that course forward until that lip on the back catches the block below. Therefore, you can't slide it any further forward. Therefore, every block course is ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch back past the previous block. Therefore, it's always moving toward the wall that it's retaining, or the dirt that it's retaining. Then, as you do that, you don't want to go too high, because if you can imagine, you're stacking each block. Each block it's a little further back, so therefore the wall is going like this a little, and I'm exaggerating. It doesn't go that much. It's a small amount of lean. It's a small amount of lean. But as you can imagine, even with a small amount of lean, as you start to go up, the wall's going to become unstable. It's going to want to fall over because the center of gravity is moving back every course. That's why you don't want to go very many courses before you backfill. So you go like 2 to 3 courses, and then you backfill. And not only do you backfill behind them, but you fill in the blocks too. See, the blocks are hollow, and all the blocks get filled, and the backfill gets filled. Now it's just as solid as a rock. I mean, it really is solid after you backfill it, especially if you backfill it with a gravel that can compact really well. Okay, so then you level it off smooth, then you put your next course on, and maybe 2 courses, and then you backfill again, and then the same thing, and you just keep going up. And really, I think I didn't read the directions on this one. I just went by the seat of my pants, to be honest with you. You're supposed to put that mesh in at so many intervals. I think it's every block I'm sure is different. They have different numbers. But I think on the block that I laid out there behind the house, those were much bigger, much heavier block. And I think they wanted you to do it every 4 feet. You go up 4 feet, and then you lay a mat out there, and then you go up 4 feet and you lay a mat out there. I think that's what it was, or maybe it was 4 blocks. Regardless, the point is that you go so far and you put your mat out there, and that mat, that webbing. You wouldn't think that would do anything, but the fact that you set your next course on top of that webbing. Then you backfill and you fill the holes in there. Now the holes are the gravel has intermingled in that web, so there's no way you could pull that web back out because it's full of gravel, and those rocks are in those holes and fine spaces of that mat, and so you couldn't pull it out. So the wall can't pull forward because that mat is holding it back there because you've backfilled on top of the mat also. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but that webbing is important to keep your wall from pulling forward. Now, if you're building your wall really good and flat and level, your wall's not going to fall forward anyway because like I said, it's stacked up leaning backwards. It's leaning into the wall it's supporting. That's about all I can tell you about it. It's really not too hard to build. I mean, they're heavy. Let me just tell you a side story. When I showed you in yesterday's vlog, I showed you how we loaded and hauled the block. Let me take a drink here. So I was at Menards there, and they were loading them on there. The guy that was helping me was a really nice guy. The forklift operator, he was really a helpful fella and really was a nice guy. And he says to me, he says, I guess you've hired a big crew to come in and lay all these blocks, right? I said, yeah, you're looking at him. He's going, you're going to lay all these blocks yourself? And I said, yeah, I did it. I said, these are light blocks. These are only 70 pounds each. The last ones I laid were 90 pounds each. They were a lot bigger. He's going, you got to be kidding me. I said, no, I'm not kidding you at all. I said, I'm just going to do it all myself. So my point in telling you that is that you might want to hire a crew. It's real physical. It's real physical. You might think, well, lifting 1 or 2 blocks, 70-pound blocks ain't much. But when you, like I did 4 courses this morning, that's a lot of blocks. And you do that many times, and yeah, you'll know you did something. I was real happy to quit this morning, I'm telling you. So that's the only thing I'd tell you, Clyde, is it's actually fairly easy. That the very first course is your important course. Get it flat, level, perfect. Don't let it start tipping this way or that way. Make sure your block is level in both planes, front to back and sideways. And then the tricky part is, now your next block you lay, it's got to be front and back also, but it also has to be level with the previous block. So that's the hard part, is getting it level with the previous block. And that's why you want to set them on a compacted gravel, and then you can wiggle them and maneuver them into place to lower it down so that it's level with the next block. It's a kind of an art form. It takes a little while to get a knack or to get it going. I've got that down pretty good now. I've got my own little method for doing it, and it works out pretty good, and the wall stays good and level. But that's the key to making a good retaining wall, is making it good and level, and good backfill, and a good net to anchor everything to. Okay, moving on. Cup of Cool. I was wondering if there is any way that using weight to hold a bridge down instead of clamps could ever work. Could it ever work? I would say if I was on a deserted island and this was all I had, I'd sure use clamps. I'd sure use weight. But in this day and age, I'd just get some clamps if I was you. They're not that expensive. You can buy them off of eBay or someplace like that. They're referred to as bridge clamps, and generally they're made out of aluminum these days, and you could probably make your own if you really wanted to. You could make them out of wood, really, but the problem with making them out of wood is you got to know how to turn the grain the right way. If I was going to make them out of wood, I'd make them out of plywood, and I'd make them out of at least 3/4 inch plywood. Inch plywood would even be better, because you can get like floor underlayment in inch. But I would make them out of plywood if I was going to make them out of wood, because of the grain problems that you would have with standard wood. They'll want to split at the point in the back when you tighten it down, But you could literally make them out of wood. I have made some C-clamps out of wood. Matter of fact, I made a lot of them. If I was in the shop, I'd show you how I made them. But I would use clamps. I don't think I'd use weights. Weights would work if that was all you had, but I would think it would be secondary choice for sure compared to clamps. Hope that helps you. Scott Roberts. How come iPhone chargers aren't called apple juice? Thought you might know. Clyde Lewis just made a donation. Thank you very much, Clyde. I really appreciate that. Apple juice. That's pretty funny. Larry Fisher says, also with outside hunters coming in, is the liability. Yeah, Larry, I guess there's some liability there too. The ones that came in before, I knew them really well. They were good friends, even though they leased the place. I knew who they were. I knew them well enough to know and considered them a friend. that I leased it to them, and therefore I couldn't hunt it, is the point. But I wasn't too worried about the liability with those guys, but you're right. If you're just letting any Tom, Dick, and Harry come in there, you do have a liability issue for sure. Larry Fisher has another one. As far as heat and humidity go, how does this year compare to others in your area? Well, Larry, I don't know that it's all that much worse or much better. It's kind of the same. It's really bad here in the summertime. It really is. Missouri is super humid. It's off the charts, really. It's hard to get your breath sometimes. It really is. It's more the humidity than the heat is the problem generally. You just sweat and sweat and sweat. It's so bad. Anyway, Dogfather61, GoPro crap. Love your reviews. Is that really you, or have you been deep faked? I can promise you, what I said about this is 100% true. Does it work? Does it take pictures and good video? Yes. But it's still crap. On its very best day, it sucks canal water. I'm sorry. I'm not making this up. I know this is silly to even say this because it's not going to happen, but they seriously need to pay me a consulting fee and have me explain to them how they can improve their products and make a way better product for no more money. It's absolutely ridiculous how bad that thing is compared to how good it should be. There you go. And they could hire me, and I would be happy to consult with them. I think I've told this once before, but the accounting program I use, the company got bought out by somebody else, and then they like their version of that. I don't know why they even bought them, because they more or less discontinued the accounting program I'm using. Maybe they just didn't want them for competition. I don't know. But the accounting program I'm using is a very good one. It's called Mind Your Own Business. It's out of date now. You can't buy it anymore, I don't think. But I like it. And but when I started using it, I thought, man, you know what? If they would just change these few things, this program would be a whole lot better. And I gave them a list of about 12 items, I don't remember, and I told them why and how, and because you got to remember, I design computer systems for a living for AT&T. So I sent them this long letter. Back then, that was when you could get a hold of people still. You can't get a hold of anybody now. If I could, I'd already call these people. But anyway, so I sent them a nice letter, and they sent me a response back and said, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. We're putting 8 of your suggestions into the next release. And they put them in there, and they worked. And so, and then I think they later came up with the rest of them I put in there too. So anyway, the point is, it's not that I just blow wind. I really do mean what I say when I say it. This isn't, this is crap. It could be so much better. It could just be so much better and wouldn't cost a dime to do it. Ridiculous. Just plain ridiculous. So if you really want the synopsis of the review, the Hero 3, 10 years ago, was a really good camera. It just needed these screens. This camera has really nice screens, but they lost all the good things out of the Hero 3. It's just stupid. Completely stupid. Okay, moving on. You guys love it when I rant. Okay, let's see. It scrolled up the screen, so I'm finding where I left off there. Okay, it looks like Scott Roberts is the next one, I think. So can we get your honest opinion on the GoPro camera? Ha, 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 ha. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Yeah, well, if it's good, you've heard me say it before. When it's good, I tell you how good it is. When it's bad, I tell you how bad it is. And I'm not going to pull any punches. There's no point in sugarcoating it. I would not recommend you buy this camera. I just wouldn't recommend it. There's so many better ones out there. That DJI Osmo camera that I have, the one that has the, it's a little flaky. It's got some things because it's big, it's awkward. I can't put it on my head, I can mount this on a head lamp or whatever, and this will mount there. But if the battery only lasts 15 to 20 minutes, and that's their good battery, how long does their crappy battery last? I mean, it's just pitiful. Pitiful, pitiful, pitiful. They'll go out of business if they keep this up. There is no way they're going to stay in business. So Oliver Brooks says, what's the name of the other camera with the longer life? Well, like I said, it's that DJI Osmo. I think Osmo is the name of it, to be honest with you. I'm a little sure, not sure 100% that that's right, but I think that's the name of it. Now, I didn't understand how that camera worked at the beginning, and I had a lot of problem getting that camera going. And again, that's another thing. If they could just consult with me, I could explain to them why people have problems with their cameras, and they could fix it, and it'd be so easy. But no, nobody contacts me. So there you go. I see Bill Webb's comment. Bill Webb's a guy that's stayed here a whole bunch of times, him and his wife. He says, I went to Amazon and ordered the headlamp. I use it when I run in the morning so I don't get run over. If the drivers don't see the light, they don't need to be driving. Well, Bill, don't you know that when you shine this light into the eyes of those drivers that they go instantly blind? It says it on the package. Bill says he can't wait to see the wheelhouse. Well, I kind of can't wait either. I got to be honest with you, the progress is going to slow down on the next phase because, well, I got to pour a big concrete slab, and then I got to lay up all that rock. And laying up that rock ain't going to be easy. But I've pretty much committed that that's the way I'm going to go because I'm going to like that look. And I mean, I could do it with just wood and forget the rock, but it would, in a few years it'd be rotted out and I'd have to do it again anyway. So might as well just do it with the rock the first time. JT, is the audio bad or is it just me? Terrible background hum. Yeah, Jay, there's something going on here. I don't know what it is, buddy. I wish I knew. If I knew how to get rid of that hum, I'd get rid of it. I just don't know. It's this setup here in the man cave here. It's different than the one I have down there. It's not all that different. I just don't know why it's. I just don't know. Sorry. Richard Cooksey, just listening to JR's Sasquatch stories. You have any? My wife and nephew swear they've seen them. Well, Richard, I got to be honest with you and tell you, I'm not a believer at all. Now, my son, I don't really think he believes it, but he wants to believe it. You know what I mean? He really wants there to be a Sasquatch or whatever you want to call it in this area. There's another name for them in this area. But no, I don't believe it at all, not even that much. And the reason is, and again, it's going to sound like another brag, but I don't mean it to sound that way. I'm just trying to give you the facts. I don't think there's a person on this planet other than a professional hunter, these guys that make hunting videos every day, all throughout the whole year. Other than those guys, I don't think there's a hunter out there that spent more time in the woods than I have. From the time I was about 14 to the time I was, well, really in my late 40s or 50s, and I've slowed down in my 50s, probably mid-50s I started slowing down. But up to my mid-50s from age 14, I don't think anybody spent more time in the woods than I did. I mean, I was out there just about every single weekend doing something in the woods. And I ain't never seen anything that sort of resembles a Sasquatch. And I've spent hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of very quiet, still time in the woods. And I ain't never seen nothing that even sort of resembles one. So there you go. I don't believe it at all. Jan Peters. Hi, Jerry. Why don't you send the junk camera back? I would. Love your channel. Very entertaining and educating. From Germany. Well, Jan, I don't know. This is just another part of my nature. It's one of my idiosyncrasies. I almost never return anything. I don't know why. I just don't. And it's not that it doesn't work. It's just that it just could be so much better. It physically does what it's supposed to do. But the sound on it, by the way, also, at this point, the sound should be better too. In other words, you shouldn't have to have a separate microphone to be heard on this thing. If you're not real close to it, it ain't going to hear you. So, just annoying. But yeah, I should return it. You're right, I should just send it back and say, I hate this thing. Because I really do hate it. I don't like it at all. It could just be so much better. Jim Hollis, 41, has some questions. Bluegrass-related question. I've recently run across Billy Strings and his band, and just wondering if you've heard them and what your thoughts are. Yeah, I've certainly everybody I think has heard of Billy Strings at this point. Yeah, he's really good, and he's got some deep roots in the traditional bluegrass. So, overall, I like what he does and everything. I'm not a huge fan of his exactly, but on the other hand, he's really, really, really good. Again, on a scale of 1 to 10, if he's a 10, I'm about a 6. Or maybe not even that high. I might be giving myself a little too much credit there. He's really good. Yeah, very, very, very good, in fact. Paul Akers, would you use heat to remove glue from a crack on a guitar top, or just dig it out with a blade? I don't know what kind of glue, maybe CA glue. Well, Paul, I don't know. I guess I could. I don't know, honestly, on that one. That's a tough one because there's so many factors. Again, it's, is there finish there? Is it unfinished wood? Can you get, a little X-Acto blade in there and maybe lift it out with the back of the blade? There's a lot of things, and heat is one of the options, I guess. I would also consider moisture to see if moisture loosens the glue. If it's hide glue, the moisture, of course, will. If it's tight bond or any of the other good quality wood glues, moisture will probably lift them out also, unless it's one of the waterproof glues, which I don't recommend on instruments anyway. I only recommend tight bond original, or like Elmer's wood glue original type glue on that also. But anyway, so it's really hard to say what I would recommend on that. Heat might work, but I don't know. It's kind of, in a crack, heat's kind of a tough way to go. So I'm not sure you're going to get it with heat. If you had a heated probe of some sort, if you were able to heat the blade of an X-Acto knife as an example, that would be a good idea. So if you had a way to heat the probe that you're trying to get down in there to get the glue out, that would be a good idea. And maybe just heating it separately and then sticking it in there while it's hot would be a good idea. Then username Turtley, Turtleie. The guitar in back of you looks interesting. Number one of your mistakes. One of your mistakes? Well, in a way, it is kind of one of my mistakes. That was, you've heard me say maybe if you've watched a lot of my videos that I one afternoon thought, hey, I've got enough parts here to make a banjo, and I went and made a whole banjo in an afternoon, just from spare parts and miscellaneous stuff, and and at the end of the afternoon, I was done with the banjo. Well, that's kind of the way this guitar was. I had sides that I kind of rejected for a different guitar that I was building, but they were still good enough sides. I just didn't want to sell them to somebody. And then and maybe the same way with the back, and I don't remember if I had to make the neck or if I had partially neck, but I had also cut that top out of about an 1890s piano. It was the only time I ever took a piano apart to get the soundboard out, and I still have enough of that soundboard down there in the shop to make yet another guitar with that soundboard if I wanted to. This one sounds okay. It's not the greatest sounding guitar I ever built, but really the problem with this was it was built before I was such a stickler on my intonation, and the intonation's not perfect on it. That's probably the biggest problem with it. So, you know, one of these days, maybe this winter, I'm going to work on that and clean it up and fix it better. Where I started to tell you about it was when I built the top out of that 1890s piano, whatever, I don't know what year that piano was. It could have been older, might not been quite that old, but I think it was about that era. Anyway, I thought the top was solid, but it turned out there was a lot of hairline cracks in it that I didn't realize, and so the top cracked in a lot of places. I had to repair it. So then it got so messed up that I just painted it black because I just didn't want to deal with all the cosmetic issues of it. And anyway, that's the way it turned out, and it's a decent guitar. It's not great, but it's a decent guitar. But again, I mostly built it from spare parts and from rejected parts. All right, let's see here. Let's see. Oliver says Caleb has used wooden clamps in his videos. They seem to work well for him. Yeah, they do work well. You just got to be real careful with them. And if you're making them out of a C-clamp, see, the thing about the C-clamp is, I don't know if I can draw this again. And, you know, by the way, I ordered that whiteboard, and then after I ordered that whiteboard, I thought, you know, I really should have ordered a chalkboard, a blackboard, and used white chalk, because as soon as I put it up here, it's just going to wash out. You can see even this kind of washes out a little bit. Not too bad, but this is not white. But anyway, you got to consider when you're making a C-clamp, you got your long board here, and if you cut a C out of this, like make a long C like this, and this is hollow on the inside, the problem is your grain is running this way, and so right there at the back of your C-clamp, at the bottom of your C-clamp or whatever, that grain is going to be running this way, and it's going to break real easy. So that's why I say use plywood. Plywood won't have that grain issue. And no matter how you turn it, you're going to have a grain issue. If you turn it this way and the grain's running this way, it'll still be weak across here. You know, so, well, I don't know. You know what I'm saying. The point is, no matter which way you turn it, you're going to have grain crossing your clamp somewhere, and that is going to be your weak point. That's why I said if I was going to make them out of wood, I would make them out of a thick plywood. Then you don't have that grain issue, and it'll be a lot stronger. Okay, moving on. Scott Roberts. Took me a little while to read that comment. Scott Roberts says, regarding the GoPro camera, you can put powdered you're going to have to read it to him, Scott. I can't read it. You can put powdered sugar on a cow pie, but that don't make it a jelly donut. Yeah. But if they would call me and pay me a consulting fee, I would tell them how to make this a way better camera. I could make it the best camera on the market. It's pitiful, just pitiful that they went downhill. If, in my opinion, this is version 11 now from 3. So I don't know what the other versions were like, but I had 3, and 3 was that close to being a really good camera. Just that close. Almost was there. So I thought, well, this has got to be a good camera now. What a bunch of crud. What a bunch of crud. Okay. Caleb's there. He says, Oliver, they are about an inch thick, 2 pieces of wood with contrary grain. I didn't build them, though. So there you go. See, Caleb even knows that about that grain thing. He ought to know about that grain thing. I talked to him about it enough, you know, because we always talked about which way the grain is running. You know, anytime you're doing a repair on anything with wood, you should consider which way is the grain running on what's broke and which way is the grain running on the piece you're going to use to fix it. And you know, you always want to turn them cross grain if you can, if you have the option. You know, like you got this grain running this way, this grain's running this way. It can't break then. It just can't. I mean, it's going to be really super strong if you do it that way. That's why I said just use plywood and you don't have to do all that. But you could do that. You could make your C-clamp with alternate grain pattern, and it would be a lot stronger. Moving on down here. Rooster Run Workshop. I'll buy the camera. Okay. Feel free. Blackjack guitar. Jerry, it sounds like that hum, and when you place things on the tabletop, sounds like mic level too high. Well, I did turn the gain down. I'll turn it down some more, but I'm afraid you're not going to hear me as much. Maybe that's it. I don't know. This camera has a gain on it. This microphone has a gain on it. The other microphone down there doesn't have a gain. And again, that's a newer version. You know, it's like, why? I don't get it. I just don't get it. Everything, they just cheapen everything. That's what it is. That's what they did here. They just cheapen everything. Oliver again says, I think your hum is from your computer's fan resonating through your tabletop. It could be, but I'm down here like this and I can't even hear the fan on that computer. It's really a quiet computer, but it could be. Turtley says makes, not mistakes. Okay, I probably misread your comment. I told you I'm a terrible reader, so if this is your first time here, don't take offense. I don't mean anything by it. I just am a very poor reader. Man, I don't see your comment now. I'm trying to find it. I don't see it. Sorry. So I don't know what your comment was about at this point. Sorry. Yeah, now I'm moving back down here and I'll never find where I was at now, probably. Okay, blackjack guitar. Jerry, lift up the mic for a minute. All right, well, let me just set the mic on something else here. Let me try to... Accident. Is it working still? I hope it's working still. I don't know if that's on mute now or off of mute now. I've really messed up. I don't have any. This is such a small desk. I don't have any place else to put it. If I put it over here, you're probably not going to be able to hear me. It's too far away. I set it on the couch over here. You're probably not going to be able to hear me unless I move over here. But let me know if that hum goes away. It's a good thing. Okay, Brian O'Grady. The Ozark Howler, yeah, that was the other name of the Sasquatch thing, raises its ugly head again, Jerry. Be afraid. Blackjack guitar, the hum went down. Okay, it's down now, you're saying? Okay. Well, I'm going to leave it sitting there. If you can hear me, you know, if you're having trouble hearing me, let me know, though. Jerry, better now. That was the problem. Tim Willis, just use a black Sharpie when you illustrate. Well, yeah, the problem is with a whiteboard, it's going to wash out. These cameras wash out white really bad. It may not in here. It's a little darker. I don't know. Maybe not. Okay, the hum went away. All right, well, then we'll call that the reason then. Okay, the hum's gone. All right, well, that's a good thing to know. I'll try to find something else to set this on that'll be up close for the future videos. Okay, good. Glad to know that. I don't know if you can still hear me real well. It looks like it's still picking up, so I'm based on the level I can see here. Let me move to yesterday's questions real quick. We may be way out of time by now. I think a lot of these are going to be duplicates, but I'm going to try to run through them as quick as possible. How is that rechargeable headlight? Okay, we've talked about that. I don't really know. I haven't really used it, to be honest. Tatova says, breathing from your mouth because of your sinus due to some allergies. That means eating some food that gives you allergies. Yeah, it could be that. But the truth is, I've been this way my whole life. I've never been able to breathe through my nose. And I eat so few foods at this point, there's nothing I can cut out. So that's just not an option. It just isn't. And that's the end of that story. I don't eat very much. Also, your caveman's video are with lesser definition. So in other words, my man cave here, he's saying the videos aren't as good. I kind of recognize that, but I don't know anything I can do about that either, unfortunately, because, I mean, it's a different computer, different setup. Whenever we move the band live stuff up here and all that, I may move the whole computer and all that and switch these two, maybe. And he says, Tatova says, also, you never heard about smoke from a small wood fire that will keep those flies away. Never heard of anti-fly repellent or eucalyptus scent. And apparently he's got more there, but I didn't, Well, there's a million things you can try. But with horse flies, at least it's been my experience, and I may be wrong, but, like bug repellent with horse flies is like taking a BB gun to the front lines of a war. Yeah, it's just not going to do much. It's, horse flies are tough. Now, there is some spray for horses, but I don't think I want to spray that on me, honestly. Another comment says, you kill a horsefly and 10 come to the funeral. I don't doubt that. That's a possibility. And one of the comments here is, what do you watch on your huge TV, my 85-inch screen? I would say 90% of it is YouTube videos, honestly. I like to watch the how-tos and the guys that are working on machinery and the machinists, working on metal lathes and things like that. I watch mostly machining. I do watch quite a few metal detecting videos also. I'm pretty boring. I mean, most of you would think everything I watch is really boring. My wife does. She can't stand what I watch at all. Okay, I read that one. Let's see. Where do the purple martins go so early? Yeah, I think they go to South America. I really do. I think they go to the Amazon. Now, I don't think they go all the way down there this early, but I think they're on their route down there. Bill Dedrick, you have a lot of bugs there, typical house flies, mosquitoes, gnats, chiggers, horse flies, deer flies. Do you have bats there and dragonflies which feed on the bugs? Have the purple martins left for the year? You were bitten 10 to 12 times. You must be very tough. I was bitten once as a teenager in the Adirondacks in upstate New York, and it hurt like H double hockey sticks. Much worse than a bee sting. Yeah, well, they don't feel good, I'll tell you that. But if you've ever been stung by a red wasp, you'll learn what hurts. Red wasps just about knock you down. They hurt really bad. At least they do me. I mean, again, I think there's a lot of individuality to all this stuff. Like the brown recluse spider bites. Most people, get a rotten spot on them, and my mom did. She got bit by one and got a rotten spot there, and it just made a big ugly mess. I got bit the first time, and it got just red hot. I mean, it was just as hot as fire. And I'm not kidding you. You put your hand on there and you go, wow, that's hot. I mean, it was obvious it was really hot. And I'd put ice on there. The ice would melt in 15 minutes. I mean, just be gone. Just turn to water. And that lasted for almost 3 days. That was the first brown recluse spider bite. The second brown recluse spider bite I got, it was hot and, it kind of irritated for about a day and a half or, about like that, about a day. and then it went away. It was no big deal. The third brown recluse spider bite I got, it was like a mosquito. I mean, it didn't hardly hurt at all. I mean, it lasted a few hours and it was gone. So I think I'm immune to stuff. So I think different people have different reactions to things. So when those horseflies bite me, I ain't lying to you, they hurt. I mean, you know you've been bit, and man, you instantly are going to swat at them. And I actually hurt my elbow a couple times swatting at them. I'm old and the joints don't work so good, and when you do that, it hurts. Man, I mean, I hurt my arm a couple times swatting at those stupid things. But yeah, I'm not exaggerating. I honestly was bit 10 to 12 times yesterday, and maybe more than that. And this morning, 3 or 4 times. I don't know how many times. I didn't keep track of it today, but I would say at least 3 or 4 times, if not half a dozen times today. And but I didn't even kill a single one of those suckers today. Yesterday I was, I guess, I don't know, more intent on getting rid of them, and I killed a bunch of them yesterday. I bet I killed, I don't even know how many, but a whole bunch of them yesterday. Anyway, so that's the end of the comments. I think that reminded me of something that I was going to... somebody, somewhere in a comment, and I've lost it, but I remember reading somebody wanted to know... well, here it is. I see it now. Donna E01 says, what are chiggers? We don't have them here where I live in Canada. Well, chiggers are... And somebody already answered this for her. Mitzi, as a matter of fact, Mitzi Oden, who had been here, and you saw her on the channel playing her mandolin. She said they're a tiny red mite, and they bite, and they leave you extremely itchy. And that is true. They make an itchy thing that literally drives me crazy. But if you get an itch like that from an insect bite, I'll tell you what works really good for me, and I think it works pretty good for everybody, and that is you take clear fingernail polish, and you put it on that spot. And somehow or another, that oxygen deprivation stops the itch. I don't know why it does it, but it works, and it generally quits itching. So if you get bit by a bunch of chiggers somewhere, or even mosquito bites or anything, and it's driving you crazy because you just keep itching it, put a drop of cleared fingernail polish on it, let it dry, and I think it'll go away. I think you'll be surprised how well that works. That's really everything today. I don't see... Let me look and see if there's any new comments that have come in here in the last few minutes. Scott Roberts, how well do you hold up to green kryptonite? It brings me to my knees. I am Superman after all. Well, I'm Batman. I'm kind of both, really. I'm always telling my grandkids, I am Batman. And they're going, you're not Batman. I really am. I said, how many other people you know have a bat cave? I mean, I'm Batman. I'm not kidding you. Eddie Turner, try putting the mic on a small rug to see if it absorbs the sound. Right here on the table? Yeah, that's not a bad idea. It's a bad idea, though, because I don't have one. Let me get a towel real quick right here. Here, let me try this. I'll fold this towel like pretty thick, and I'll set the mic on the towel. Good idea, Eddie. Let me know, did the hum come back or not? Is it humdrum? Or I'm moving the mic right now because I don't like the way I had it there. Okay, I've moved it, and I think that's stable there. So let me know if the hum is back or if it's still working okay. Let's see. Scott Roberts. Scott Roberts says, ha ha ha, you're all right, Jerry. Dennis Clark says, I don't have chiggers here, but I've been to the Midwest and know for sure what they are. Yeah, they introduce themselves pretty bad. That's why, and you've heard me say it already a couple times, that's why I haven't run the fiber optic cable up to the house, because I'm planning to do it as easy as possible, and I'm going to run it in some kind of conduit and basically just put it in that ditch that runs all the way up with that creek in it, and I'm going to just maybe make some rebar staples and staple this conduit to the side of the ditch. I mean, you won't be able to see it in a year or 6 months because there'll be so many weeds and stuff growed around it. But I'm just going to more or less staple it to the side of the ditch and run it in conduit all the way up to the house. That way I don't have to dig a trench and, all that. So, but the problem with that is that ditch, I already know, is loaded with chiggers and ticks both. And I'm not going to get in that ditch until it's really cold, and that way the ticks and chiggers will be gone. Blackjack Guitar says, all good, perfect sound, good. Hey, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad that was an easy fix, because that was bugging me. I didn't know what the problem was. Good. Let's see here. This will be the last comment. It's not a question, I don't think, but Outboard Tinkerer 62. Jerry, you're a ladies' man, supposedly. Huh? Supposedly. Only the female horseflies bite humans. Need the blood for making more horseflies. Ha ha. Well, here I go again about my genetic defects. I'll tell you a quick story. My mom was in the hospital, and she was very, very, very ill and needed blood transfusions. And this was back in the 70s, maybe late 70s. I don't know. It was a long time ago. So I went to the hospital, and I told the girl, I said, yeah, I'm here for told my mom's name, and I said, I'm giving blood for her, that type thing. She said, okay. So she was just a young girl, you could tell, and didn't have a lot of experience. But she starts doing a blood test, and she's going, oh, wow, you got, what did she say? You got AB. You got AB blood. And then she's kind of excited about that. And then she did another test, and she goes, oh my gosh, you got AB negative. And she takes off running down the hall, yelling to the head nurse or whatever, he's got AB negative blood. So they put me on a donor list for AB negative blood. And the only problem with that is, see, I'm not squeamish about that kind of thing. I don't like it. Trust me, one of the things I like the least is getting stuck with a needle. I don't like that at all. But, I can do it. It doesn't really kill me or nothing. So, like I was willing to be on their transfusion list or whatever you called it back then. Donor list, I guess. Anyway, so I gave blood for her. As I remember, I knew we had problems at my mom and dad's house. I think I've told this story once before on the channel. Some of you may have heard it. But anyway, they were having water problems at my mom and dad's house. And the well in this house, it was really unusual, was drilled, or really the house was probably built around the well. So it was like in the middle of the house. So there was no way to really pull the well or whatever. And anyway, there was some kind of problem, and we had to burrow under the house to get to this spot. And so I'm under there, and it's a concrete slab. So there's concrete right at your back. You don't want to dig it any bigger than you have to. So we're just digging a tunnel back through there. So I just given this blood, I instantly go straight home. They tell you to take it easy and relax and, all this kind of stuff. So, yeah, I did. I got out of the car, crawled in that tunnel, and started digging, And, the sweat was just pouring off of me. I could just feel the sweat pouring off of me. I come out. Now, keep in mind, I just gave blood. So I come out of this tunnel, and my grandma was there, and she starts screaming, oh my God! She runs over and grabs me. She goes, and I didn't know what was wrong. That wasn't sweat, it was blood. I had cut my back in there digging, and my whole white t-shirt was now blood red. And it was soaked. And she just was screaming. Now, keep in mind, just an hour ago, I had just given blood, So, the thing about that is that after I give blood, and I attributed it this time to the fact that I lost so much extra blood, but I go into, not exactly convulsions. I don't go into convulsions. I get real sick. Like real sick. Sick to my stomach, just nauseated, headaches, everything after I give blood. And so that time, I attributed that to the extra blood loss, so I didn't think too much of it. I recovered and everything was fine. Well, it wasn't too long after that, too many years after that, I gave blood again. And again, about 2 hours or so after I give blood, I get real sick, real nauseated, sweating, everything. I mean, I get real bad. I mean, like real bad. So I tell my doctor that. He goes, if I was you, and my doctor was a really good doctor at that time. I mean, this guy was on top of it. So whatever he said, I believed. I mean, this guy was really sharp. And he says, if I was you, with that kind of reaction, I would never give blood again if I was you. He says, I'm just telling you right now, I wouldn't do that anymore. And I said, okay. So I never did. I never gave blood anymore. But I do have AB negative, so maybe that's why the horseflies like me so much. It's something they don't get to taste very often. I told you I am a genetic defect, man. There's so many weird things, anomalies with me. I could go on all day and tell you. You just wouldn't believe it. You think I'm just making this stuff up or trying to be sensational for YouTube, and I'm not. It's just all black and white facts. Okay. That's it. I've rambled on long enough, worked myself to death. So basically, I'm going to get off here. I'm going to eat a very small lunch because I'm down to 196, by the way. That's from 223 at the start of the year. I'm down to 196. And I'm trying to get to 185, really. I said 190, but honestly, I'm not going to be happy till I get to 185. If I get to 185, I'm going to quit worrying about the weight so much, and I'm just going to try to maintain 185. But it's been a slow struggle. This last from about 205 pounds to 196 has taken twice as long as the rest of it. So anyway, that's the name of that tune. Thank you all for tuning in today. Looks like we have 138 viewers at the moment. We will see you on the next video. I will try to get something out for this weekend, but honestly, I don't know what it's going to be. I just don't know, but I'll try to get something out by Sunday at the latest. We'll see you then.